Welcome back to the Upside Sports Network. My name is Michael. Appreciate you guys joining us for our second ever daily update anyway. We're going to be doing this literally every single day at about 10 o'clock, updating you on really every single storyline that's out there. So without further ado, let's get right into it. First storyline, of course, is going to be Kevin Durant and his trade request. A couple of months ago now, Kevin Durant let it be known that he wanted out of Brooklyn, and he went straight to Joe Tsai and told him exactly what he wanted to do, that he wanted to go ahead and move on and get out of Brooklyn. They immediately put him on the block, tried to trade him to a number of different teams, asking for the moon, another moon, and then yet another moon. So, of course, that hasn't happened yet. And so Kevin Durant is growing a little antsy and wants to get out of there. And again, went to Joe Tsai today and reiterated his desire to be traded. This time, though, he issued an ultimatum to the Nets governor, Joe Tsai. He said basically either fire Sean Marks, the general manager, and the head coach, Steve Nash, or trade me. Now, I don't think it was necessarily an either or is what Kevin Durant was meaning to say. I think he basically wants to say, I don't like the structure here. I know you're not going to fire the management here anyway. So basically, this is me telling you in another way to go ahead and get rid of me. Whatever I have to do to get off of this team, make it happen. It seems like he wants no part of Brooklyn right now under any circumstances, no matter what that future looks like in Brooklyn, whether it's going to be championship or bust. He doesn't want anything, none of it. And so if you're a team looking for that top-end player, give the Brooklyn Nets a call. They'd be more than happy to look out and try to get that trade done for you. Joe Tsai, after that ultimatum was issued, after he met face-to-face with Kevin Durant, said that he stands directly behind Sean Marks and Steve Nash. He's not going to be trading them or getting rid of them. The interesting part of this whole thing is that Kevin Durant handpicked his head coach in Steve Nash. Sean Marks, of course, made the hire, but it was Kevin Durant that said, hey, hire my buddy Steve Nash. And unfortunately, it just hasn't worked. I'm a really big fan of Steve Nash, the player. Really like his business acumen off the court. He's been fantastic off the court. Mentors players as well. That's why he has a strong relationship with Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. That's what ultimately got him the job. However, I think he's a little bit out of his depth, unfortunately, as a coach. It just hasn't worked. Maybe his next stop will be a little bit better, much like Jason Kidd is finally on his, I believe, his third stop now, and he looks really good in Dallas. Maybe that's what's going to end up happening with Steve Nash. But for right now, he's not the guy for Brooklyn, and I think they ultimately should end up getting rid of him. But as far as the Kevin Durant part of this goes, he wants nothing to do with that management group right now. He wants to go ahead and wash his hands, say, I didn't really pick these people. Yes, you did, Kevin Durant. That's exactly what you did, and now you want nothing to do with it a year later. Sorry, that's not the way it works. Other headlines from around the NBA anyway. The Kings, of course, made yet another signing a guard, Quinn Cook, adding to that backcourt group there. There was a little bit of a Twitter beef today anyway between DeJounte Murray and rookie Paolo Banchero, the number one overall pick in the draft. Apparently they played in a summer pro-am for Isaiah Thomas. He had a pro-am anyway, his annual pro-am. And DeJounte Murray basically deked out the rookie, did a self alley-oop, and went to Twitter anyway, basically to shame the rookie even further. Unfollowed the rookie after basically lambasting him all across Twitter. So it should be very interesting to see the Hawks versus Magic games this year. So keep your eyes peeled for that. How many times can you say an Orlando Magic game is must-watch TV? Well, now you have a reason to watch in addition to just having a top rookie on that roster. Switching over to the MLB anyway, there's a little bit of news out of there anyway. The Chicago Cubs making two bits of news. One is that they're going to go ahead and release Jason Hayward after the season. He just has not had any success there in Chicago. One of the Chicago reporters put out a nice piece of what he's done off the field for them. Really great all-around type of a person. But unfortunately, they signed you not to be the great person off the field. They signed you to have that production on the field, and he just hasn't been there over the last year anyway. The production at the plate anyway wasn't there either. They signed him mainly because of defensive versatility and also having that offensive potential, neither of which panned out. The defense just wasn't quite there to be able to play in center, so they've had to move him back to right, where that contract looked even more onerous. And so part of the reason why the Cubs had to get rid of Chris Bryant, Kyle Schwarber, Anthony Rizzo, they were going to get rid of Wilson Contreras at the deadline this year, but did not trade him. In my opinion, that's still an error. But part of that was all due to the signing of Jason Hayward. They just limited themselves with their financial flexibility, and so that's part of the reason why they had to blow things up. Now, as far as the Cubs, they also brought in Franmil Reyes, who was DFA'd the other day by the Cleveland Guardians. He was part of that big package that went to Cleveland in exchange for Mike Clevenger. Now he hopes to find new horizons with the Chicago Cubs. Probably going to play every day as a DH, at least to see if he can turn that bat around. Outside of Joey Gallo, been one of the worst strikeout rates in the major leagues. We'll see if he can fix those issues with the Chicago Cubs. Little news out of the Seattle Mariners. They're going to be looking to sign a shortstop, according to reports right now. J.P. Crawford had been given assurances that they would not go out and seek a shortstop this offseason, or the last offseason anyway. So far, they've held true to their word, but that seems to be changing right now. J.P. Crawford's been a good, productive player for them, but not nearly at the level of the top-end shortstops that are going to be on the market next year. Looking at Xander Bogaerts, Trey Turner, Carlos Correa, Dansby Swanson. Seattle's hoping to get very good very quickly here. They already made the trade for Luis Castillo. Their top-end prospects are already shot, so they need to make free agent acquisitions if they're going to improve this club. Julio Rodriguez is looking like a game-changing talent, and now's the time to push the chips to the center if you're the Seattle Mariners. So looking at those that shortstop class, maybe they turn around and flip J.P. Crawford after they get one of those shortstops. That would be a fantastic way to go if you're a Mariners fan. Hope you guys up in the Pacific Northwest are paying attention to Seattle. They're going to be a force in the AL West for years to come. Last bit of news out of the MLB anyway, Mackenzie Gore, one of the key pieces in that trade for Juan Soto last week. He will start to throw on Friday. They're going to have a great 1-2 punch at the top of their rotation for years to come with Josiah Gray, the main piece of the Trey Turner deal last year, and Mackenzie Gore, the main piece of the Juan Soto trade this year. That 1-2 punch, along with the shortstop C.J. Abrams, couple of outfield prospects, James Woods and Robert Hassel, the Washington Nationals look like they're good to go for the next several years. Let's flip over to some news out of the NFL. The Denver Broncos are set to be sold tomorrow to the Walton Penner Group anyway. In case you're wondering who that might be, that's going to be Walmart. The heir to the Walmart fortune anyway is now going to be the owner of the Denver Broncos. The sale is going to be for $4.65 billion. That's with a B, billion dollars. Denver, of course, made the trade for Russell Wilson. They should be one of the best teams in the AFC West. Remains to be seen if they'll make the playoffs, though, because that division is loaded. But Russell Wilson hopefully will push them over the top. If you're a Broncos fan, things are looking up for you. Jimmy Garoppolo, we touched on him yesterday in our first daily update anyway. News today is that they're looking at cutdown day, and they may end up having to release him if they're unable to find a trade partner for him. Seems like the 49ers just don't want him in the room with Trey Lance. They're allowing him to throw on the side, so I wouldn't expect him to play in the preseason game on Friday. We will cover that here on the at the Upside Sports Network. That'll be the Packers versus the 49ers. We get our first look at Trey Lance this preseason, see if he can really handle an NFL huddle. But again, it's preseason, so kind of take everything with a grain of salt. Next bit of news, the New York Jets, unfortunately, have lost their right tackle, Mekhi Becton, for the year. It seems like he had suffered a knee injury. He was already expected to be out about 6 weeks. Initial reports anyway indicated that, but it seems like those knee issues are more significant than originally thought. He is going to miss the entire year, unfortunately. Little news out of the Dallas Cowboys. They decided to bring in a number of different kickers today. Brett Maher, the former Dallas Cowboy, is among that group. They brought in like 4 or 5 of them. If you'll remember, earlier this offseason, they went ahead and cut Greg the Leg Zuerlein anyway. He came over from the LA Rams a couple of years ago on that massive deal that the Cowboys decided to give him. They decided to go ahead and cut him as things just hadn't worked out quite as well as they had hoped anyway. But now they're looking to bring in the guy they cut him for, or they brought him in for originally, in Brett Maher. Now, if you're a Cowboys fan, you remember he started to have some struggles late in the year. That's why they had to bring in Zuerlein. Last year, Brett Maher played for the New Orleans Saints. He was part of that Will Lutz contingent that were trying to fill in for him last year. 4 different kickers were used last year by the New Orleans Saints. Brett Maher was used for, I believe, 8 to 10 games of that. I can't remember which exactly, but he kicked about 80% in field goals last year. So we'll see who they end up signing. Seems like their kicker they brought in this offseason, Garibay from the Texas Tech anyway, just has not been able to find the range, has missed 7 of 11 field goal attempts in practice so far, missed almost every single kick in Saturday's practice. So they really need to bring in somebody a little bit more experienced who can handle the pressure-packed environment that is the Dallas Cowboys. Next up, the Baker Mayfield, it seems to have taken the lead in the Carolina Panthers quarterback race ahead of Sam Darnold. He's taking most of the first team reps anyway, now with the Carolina Panthers. Of course, this probably will not be solved until the first week of the season anyway, as I expect Sam Darnold's going to be given every single chance to try to take that job back. But Matt Rule always likes to play games with his quarterbacks, unfortunately. That usually doesn't work out best for the quarterback room. We'll see how that works out this season, though. But Baker Mayfield right now seems to have taken the lead in that area, more secure with the ball so far in practice, less turnovers, that kind of a thing. Good news out of the Carolina Panthers camp, at least for now. Big news out of the Ravens is that they activated J.K. Dobbins for the first time after his injury last preseason anyway. We'll see if he can stay healthy this season. I assume they're going to be very careful with him this preseason so as to not re-aggravate those injuries, so he has to miss more time. The former Ohio State running back should perform very well in that backfield. They lost a number of people last preseason to injury. I believe their number 1, 2, and 3 running backs were all out all last year due to injury. Nice to have him back. The other news out of the Baltimore Ravens is that they have extended the contract of kicker Justin Tucker, the most accurate kicker in NFL history by a wide margin. They signed a 4-year, $24 million contract, $6 million average annual value. That's a great deal for a kicker. Justin Tucker, though, deserves it. This contract will take him through 2027, and most of this deal is fully guaranteed. I believe $17.5 million is guaranteed. That's unheard of in today's day and age, in today's game anyway, for kickers, because kickers don't get guaranteed money, not at that level at least. But Justin Tucker seems to be the exception to the rule. Little news out of the LA Rams is that Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford is dealing with an elbow injury. Seems like that issue might resolve itself hopefully by week 1, but seems like Matt Stafford would be more than willing to play with that injury should there be regular season games right now. But because it's preseason, they're taking it slow, allowing him to recover. A little bit of news, of course, last night we mentioned is that Odell Beckham Jr. is still on the Rams' radar, but we'll see if he ends up going there. Little news today on Odell Beckham Jr. is that the Buffalo Bills indeed have reached out to Odell Beckham Jr., primarily Von Miller, the former LA Ram from last year, who signed that 6-year, $120 million deal to go to Buffalo this offseason anyway, is looking to bring the former LA Ram to Buffalo. That would be a heck of an ad for that Buffalo receiving corps that already has Stephon Diggs. So keep your eyes peeled for what may happen with Odell Beckham Jr. here in the coming days. Now, remember, he is still recovering from injury. He's not expected to be active for week 1, no matter where he signs. It'll be interesting to see which team ends up getting him, the favorite in the NFC or the favorite in the AFC. Last bit of news, anyway, is that Jameis Winston has suffered a foot injury at practice for the New Orleans Saints. Seems like he's going to miss at least some time. Andy Dalton is the backup quarterback there. Of course, they still have Taysom Hill there, but they have told him that he is not going to be a quarterback going forward. So it seems like it's going to be Andy Dalton's show. He may be your week 1 starter if Jameis Winston doesn't heal up in time. The Raiders, they have said that they are not officially trading Josh Jacobs, is that they're not trying to shop him anyway. There was originally some thought that maybe as many running backs as they brought in this offseason, that they may be trying to showcase him after they used him in the Hall of Fame game last week. Josh McDaniels took to the podium today to state that they were not, in fact, looking to trade him. We'll see if that is the case anyway, but they brought in a whole bunch of running backs this offseason, some of them from that New England system where McDaniels came from, of course. So we'll see if that ends up being true. But that would be a great trade target anyway if your team, say like the Cleveland Browns, who just had a disgruntled running back and Kareem Hunt request a trade, maybe you're able to work out something for Josh Jacobs, try to work something out there. But just imagine that backfield in Cleveland if they were to bring in Josh Jacobs. Kareem Hunt would be an adequate fill-in for Josh Jacobs in that Raiders running back room anyway. So we'll keep our eyes peeled to the Raiders running back situation if they do decide to move. If they decide to move Josh Jacobs. Moving on to the NHL anyway, a little bit of news out of there. The Boston Bruins have decided to give it one last go-around for Patrice Bergeron, the former, I think he's a 5-time Selke winner. He's absolutely fantastic. Of course, the skates have started to slow down over the past couple of years. That's why he signed a 1-year, $2.5 million deal. Last year, I believe he was on a $7.5 million deal anyway. So a little bit of a pay cut anyway now for Patrice Bergeron. But we'll see if the Bruins are able to capture a little bit of more magic one more time. They also brought back from Russia, I believe, David Krejci anyway. He signed a 1-year, $1 million deal with $2 million in incentives. So the Boston Bruins are looking to rekindle some magic that they had in the glory days of seasons past anyway. We'll see if they can do so. But a little bit of news out of the Vegas Golden Knights is that they have signed a contract extension with Nicholas Roy, a 5-year, $15 million contract. Had a career year last year where he had 15 goals and 24 assists. He is 25 years old, so this will take him through his age 30 season. We'll see if Vegas can bring in the last bits of their remaining restricted free agents. They are right up against the salary cap right now with Shea Weber's deal even with Shea Weber's deal going on LTIR, they still have about $2 million left, so they're up against it right now. We'll see if they can get those deals done. But there's also a plethora of free agents still out there on the board right now. Nazem Kadri is probably the best of that group, but there's a whole bunch of them out there on the board. So your favorite team, keep pressing them for information. There's a lot of options out there. We'll see which teams these players go to. But thank you guys for joining us for our daily update here on August 8th. Just to kind of recap the headlines again, Kevin Durant issued an ultimatum to Nets ownership saying either fire Marks and Steve Nash or trade me. Of course, we realize that this is all about getting him out of town. He's trying to make himself public enemy number one in Brooklyn right now, just to further up the ante, to force the Brooklyn Nets to get him out of there. He's tired of how long this is taking, which is why I believe he ended up making that request anyway. Welcome in, Zach. The Denver Broncos are going to be sold tomorrow anyway to the Walton Penner Group anyway. Of course, that is the Walton family of Walmart anyway. It's going pretty well. Just started up our daily updates anyway. Jimmy Garoppolo, of course, we have the news last night is that he's not going to be around much longer for the San Francisco 49ers, that they were going to hold on to him until cut-down day to see if somebody wants to trade for him. At this point, if you're offering a 5th, 6th, 7th round pick, you might be able to get Jimmy Garoppolo. Of course, that contract is the biggest part of the negotiations, and of course, that shoulder injury. If they are unable to find a trade partner, it sounds like they're willing to release him on cut-down day. They just do not want him in the room with Trey Lance come week 1. News out of the MLB, of course, is that the Cubs are releasing Jason Hayward, that horrible contract that he signed years ago. It ultimately brought about the end of that young Cubs group with Javier Baez, Chris Bryant, Kyle Schwarber, Anthony Rizzo. All of that team basically had to go right around the time Jason Hayward signed that big deal. Just things did not work out with the Cubs for Jason Hayward. They also brought in Franmil Reyes today, who was DFA'd by the Guardians the other day. Hopefully he's able to improve that strikeout rate, which is second worst in the league, only behind Joey Gallo. And, of course, Mackenzie Gore, the top piece out of the Juan Soto trade anyway. He is going to start throwing on Friday. That's going to be a great 1-2 punch now in Washington for years to come with Josiah Gray and Mackenzie Gore. In the NHL, of course, Patrice Bergeron and David Krejci rekindling some glory days with Boston. We'll see if they can do so. But thank you guys again for joining us for our daily update for August 8th. Remember to join us every day at 10 o'clock for our daily updates. And if we're doing a live stream at 10 o'clock, immediately following our live stream, we will start our daily update, keep you updated on everything that's happening in the MLB, NBA, NFL, and the NHL. Thank you guys for joining us. Y'all have a great evening, and we'll see you tomorrow night.